In this example, we will learn how to take measurements using a metric caliper. The following animation illustrates the use of calipers to measure the width of a nut. This is the nut we are going to measure. The calipers have a fixed scale and a sliding scale. We take a measurement by closing the jaws around the object to be measured. Let's zoom in so we can read the scales clearly. The first step in reading the measurement is to locate the centimeter value. Scanning the fixed scale from left to right, we have 2 full centimeters before we encounter the sliding scale. In step 2, locate the first decimal. This is a tick mark on the fixed scale immediately before the 0 position on the sliding scale. Continuing our scan, we have another 0.4 centimeters to go before we encounter the 0 position on the sliding scale. Finally, in step 3, we'll find the second decimal. Locate the position where the tick marks on the fixed and sliding scale line up perfectly. Read the value on the sliding scale. Continuing our scan, the tick marks line up perfectly at the 7th tick on the sliding scale. Write down 7 as the second decimal in our measurement. The calipers read 2.47 centimeters. Now we'll read the caliper measurement in part A. Scanning from left to right, we have 3 full centimeters before we encounter the sliding scale. There are another 0.5 centimeters to go before we encounter the 0 position on the sliding scale. Finally, the ticks line up perfectly at the 6th tick of the sliding scale. Write 6 as the second decimal of our measurement. The calipers read 3.56 centimeters. Now we'll move on to part B. We don't even have 1 full centimeter before encountering the sliding scale, so write down 0. There are 0.7 centimeters to go before we hit the 0 position of the sliding scale. As it turns out, the ticks line up perfectly, so use 0 as a second decimal. The calipers read 0.70 centimeters. Now we'll move on to part C. There are 4 full centimeters before we encounter the sliding scale. There are another 0.9 centimeters to go before we encounter the 0 position of the sliding scale. The ticks line up perfectly at the 8th tick on the sliding scale. Write 8 as a second decimal. The calipers read 4.98 centimeters. Now we'll move on to part D. There is 1 full centimeter before we encounter the sliding scale. There are another 0.5 centimeters to go before we hit the 0 position of the sliding scale. The ticks line up perfectly at the 2nd tick of the sliding scale, so write 2 as a second decimal. The calipers read 1.52 centimeters.